Good evening, Bulls fans. I'm Matt Gritzmacher. I'm joined by John McWhinney. We are from, I got to get this right, Blue Bowl TV. It's our second week running this show under that new label. We are, of course, publishing this on ubbullrun.com. That's where John and I cover all of UB's Olympic sports. We also do some work in basketball and football, but this show, Sunday nights, roughly 9:30, 10 o'clock p.m. this year. We'll see how it works out. We're hoping to be a little earlier than next year, or than last year, I should say. Is for all UB's Olympic sports. You might know them as non-revenue sports, but we hate that label. We are now 4 sports in. John, all the real fall sports are in. We'll wait on tennis and rowing, but those guys have their championships in the spring, so we'll still cover them. But soccer's been going. They're on their 3rd weekend now. Men's soccer's 2 weekends in. I don't know if you saw this one, John, but they are the only team in the country right now that's 4-0-0 with all 4 wins coming by shutout. So a number of nation-leading stats for UB men's soccer, but it's nice for one of them to be a team leading on a team stat. Their weekend, we'll talk about them as well. Volleyball is 2 weekends in. That's who's on the docket for this week. And we'll worry about next week towards the end of the show. John, how was your weekend? We've still got one more day, thank God.
Let's see. Saturday sucked. Wait, no.
Friday.
Friday sucked.
Friday started good. Men's soccer.
Yes, Friday started very good.
If,
Um,
if our
I
whole life was just men's soccer, we'd be thrilled right now. But unfortunately, it is not.
yeah, my weekend basically went from the highest of highs down to the lowest of lows in the same day. Then I came home for the holiday weekend back at my parents' house and don't have my desk or anything here, so I'm forced to sit on the floor.
But
Uh,
you don't have a life poster or Time magazine or whatever it was.
no, it's still there.
I was not expecting that.
Still there, along with my vintage 2012 UB football poster.
2012, 4 wins. That feels like the good old days right now. But we're not here to talk about football.
We're here
Uh,
to talk about a different kind of football.
a different kind of football. I'll say, if your weekend was up and down, today was a pretty good day to be a UB fan.
It, it,
Volleyball wasn't playing, and soccer was.
this, yeah, honestly, if you're a UB fan and you want to see good teams, look, just go to the soccer games. They're free, and you're
You
going
can
to.
get beer in without too much trouble. Maybe you don't want to do that at 11 a.m. on a Sunday, but
I
you
mean,
can do it at other times.
and you'll get to see literally one of the nation's best players and a future MLS draft pick. If
Yeah.
you watch the men's team, that is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we need to start with cross country because cross country opened their season this weekend, and that's a tradition on this show. But before we do we really have that much doubt that Joe Kuda is going to play professionally as well? I mean,
Hmm.
I don't think this is a question that you're super well equipped to answer, John. I'm just putting you on the thought,
Um,
but
I had actually not really given it much thought.
huh?
But if he continues playing how he's been playing, I wasn't around during the Bobby Shuttleworth era, so
Yeah.
I can't really speak to how he played while he was at UB other than looking at the stats. But if he keeps on the trajectory that he's going there, he could definitely play in the MLS.
I mean, my thinking is there are a lot of professional teams out there. Like, I don't even mean just MLS. I mean, like
Mhm.
NASL, a second or third division team in Europe. Like, there are a lot of soccer teams in the world. And I think, you know, I think he's playing really well. I think he's unfortunately only the second best goaltender in the MAC because Drew Shepard is otherworldly for Western Michigan. But 4 straight shutouts hasn't been done since Bobby Shuttleworth. And 4 straight shutouts to open a season has never been done for UB. Other goalies in the world have gotten 4 straight shutouts. Um, I mean, who do they play this weekend? I
VMI
forgot.
and Liberty.
VMI and Liberty. So I haven't previewed them. But if he gets through another weekend, he's looking at the best shutout streak UB's ever had. And I don't know how good they are. But we'll talk about men's soccer more in a bit. They make us happy, so we save them for the end. Although cross country, who we're going to start with because they opened their season this week at the Harry Lang Invitational hosted by Colgate. I'm pretty happy with the results from cross country, John. It first weekend of the season, always going to be kind of a lighter group. The phrase that comes to mind is JV team, and I do not mean to say that pejoratively, but a freshman heavy group. I think the women's side in particular saw very few names that we're familiar with from last year, which is okay. They improved over last year's results at Harry Lang. The women finished second, which I'm very pleased with, and the men finished fourth. Keeping in mind that Syracuse was there, and Syracuse's men are ranked number 1 in the country, and the women 15th. Not a bad showing.
No, not at all. I think there are really kind of two things that really stuck out for me. One was, I think when I read through the results, I saw the names of the UB people, and most of the freshmen, I don't recognize their names yet, and I saw the names, and I kind of thought to myself, like, are these actual people that run for Buffalo? But then Stephanie Ward, when I saw her time and went back and compared it to some of last year's times, she might be one of those surprise freshmen that breaks into the top 7.
Yeah, the Rachel Barrett of this year. That's what I'm thinking.
Obviously, there's still a long way to go. They've only had one race, but a good start nonetheless. On the men's side, the top 5 runners for the men were all within 13 seconds of each other, which a group of mostly freshmen and maybe a sophomore or two thrown in there running that close together, it was encouraging, especially seeing as especially on the men's side last year, they had a lot of trouble running in packs.
I worry sometimes that if you don't know anything about cross country except what I tell you on this show, you think that running in packs is the most important thing. And it is super important, but I don't want to convey that like UB absolutely must run in packs or else they will fail to succeed. But if you can, that's how you at the college level, they're running in races with 100 people. In high school, I ran in races with 200, sometimes 300 people, depending where I was. If you can finish 2 seconds closer, if you can latch on to someone and run with and are used to running near and finish 2 seconds faster as a result, you might move up 5 spots. And that's really valuable in the team scoring. That said, something that the men have struggled with over the years is to have both a strong pack and at least one runner who can finish in the top, 10 or 15 of any race. Kind of have sometimes had one or the other. At the best races, if you think of the best races over the last 2 years from the men, the Paul Short Invitational, and I think the men were at the one in Boston 2 years ago. I think it wasn't a women's only race. Those are races where they had both. They had their top runner ran really well, and then 2 through 5 were very tight. But running in a pack and still and not having someone run slower than you'd expect because he's comfortable with his teammates, and not have, running in a pack and still running good times is a lot tougher than you'd think. There's a lot that goes into cross country, and it's really, really encouraging to see freshmen do that. Of course, they've all run in high school. But it's something that we harp on, in part because there's very little to say when we just get a bunch of times. But not only were they all in a pack, John, but if we're comparing to last year's race, this group was demonstrably faster than last year's group. All of those top 5 would have come in before the third runner in last year's group at Harry Lang. And again, it's the first meet of the season. Even the UB Stampede won't have the bulls at full strength. We got to wait for Paul Short on October 1st for that. We'll see what comes of that. But 5 runners faster than the third runner in last year's race at this meet. And all 7, I shouldn't say all 7, we had more than that, but these 7 runners that we counted, all would have been in front of the 5th runner at last year's meet. So I'm excited about that. One name I'm really excited about in this group is junior John McCarthy. I I did not do my research to look at the X's and O's and specifics of what he did in the track season this past year, but he really strikes me. I was saying this in track season in the spring too, John. He really strikes me as someone who's following an Amy Shaw-like trajectory, where Amy Shaw was kind of on the edge of the 7 in the top flight races one year, then had a big track season, and the last year was very big for us in cross country. John McCarthy had a similarly big track season. Didn't set school records like Amy Shaw did, but was up there, especially in track season where a lot of UB's distance runners were not present for one reason or another. And so I'm excited to see what he could do, and I think it's encouraging that he got a race under him, rather than being discouraged that he's generally surrounded by folks who might not be in UB's top flight, given that it's the first meet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how much else we can really say on one race. It is kind of disappointing that they really won't race again for.
They'll race on the 17th. That's their own, or no, it's the Friday, so it's the 16th.
Oh, there it is, the 16th.
And that's their own UB Stampede. The last 2 years, it hasn't quite been their top team, but there have been more runners that we end up seeing deeper into the season. And then I think October 1st is Paul Short.
Mm-hmm.
That will be a big one. Pre-nationals, I think, is October 18th. That will be a big one, of course. And then I think it's MAC Championships on 2 weeks after the 18th. Must be November 1st. No, that can't be right. That can't be right. 25. Pre-nationals might be the 15th. I can count. 15th and 29th. Pre-nationals on the 15th. Pull this up myself.
Yeah. MAC Championships 29th. Pre-nationals
15th. And
it's
2 weeks. It's 2 week chunks.
Yep.
So that's what's on the radar. I have not actually gone back and looked, but I really think this is one race fewer than we've seen the last few years from cross country. It just feels like a light schedule. And if that means that folks are healthy, if the whole team's healthy at the MAC Championships, then that's great. I guess the difference is the Iona Meet of Champions, which I love saying, but that's been women only the last 2 years, so maybe it's not that different. Yeah, I guess it's the same number as past years. Last year they added pre-nationals instead of going to Princeton, and this year they've dropped the Iona Meet of Champions. 2 years ago, the men and the women went to Iona. Last year, just the women. This year, nobody. So it's fine. It means that we have less to talk about. And if it means that folks are healthy...
Which is disappointing for them.
Yeah, I mean, we like to talk about sports, but... Oh, well.
I think anyone who watches the show with regularity knows we like to talk.
Yeah, we do like to do that.
I think we can move on now to volleyball, who again...
Let's do that.
Had another... They're still winless. I don't know if it was either on the show last week or in the back offices that you were telling me you were expecting them to beat St. Francis, and they lost in 5 sets.
In 5 sets.
And then dropped in straight sets to Duquesne. What's going on with the volleyball team?
They're all freshmen. This is very similar to last weekend where they got 2 pretty lackluster matches that they lost in sweeps. This week they came to Robert Morris and Duquesne. And then one match they play pretty well, have a chance to close out a win in the 4th set with a late lead. Both teams are in the 20s, and UB's got the lead, and they can't do it. They lose in the 5th. This week that came against St. Francis of PA. This weekend we had video, and I was not able to watch the St. Francis match because that was Saturday morning. I don't remember leaving the apartment yesterday, but I must have for something. Oh, I went to brunch. But I left during the St. Francis match and didn't get to see it, which is a shame because I did watch the Robert Morris and Duquesne matches, and those were ugly. I don't think it's harsh to say that the team in those matches looked extremely disjointed. Honestly, the phrase I've been using with you, John, is it doesn't look like they've practiced together. And I know that's false. I know that's not true. But they look confused about where each other are on the floor. They look confused over who's stepping up and playing a ball. There's so many points that fall that shouldn't ever fall, let alone miss hits or anything like that. Miss hits happen. But there are lots of balls falling that shouldn't ever reach the ground. They're not hard hit. They're not, they're just loose and they fall. And then there are passes that are sent into the net, passes that are sent over the net that weren't meant to be, and are another free possession for the other side. Those two matches were tough to watch. Against Duquesne, UB in both the second and the third set had some pretty big runs to make it close, but you can't get down 18-5 and then win 11 straight points. If you win 11 straight points in any set, you should be winning the set. And they won 11 straight points in the third set against Duquesne and still dropped that set 25-20. So they had a stretch where they outscored Duquesne 11-0, and in the entire rest of the set, they were outscored 25-9. And during that stretch, it was exciting. It was good. But even the second set, 25-16, they trailed. Let me just pull up the play-by-play. But they trailed something like 17-5 in that set, and then had something of a comeback. Not quite as extreme as the 11-0 run. Play-by-play. Second set, and I'll be fair. Duquesne looks very good this year. They swept their entire weekend. They didn't drop a set at all. Okay, so the women were down 21-8 in the second set, and then fought back as close as 23-16. So they went on an 8-2 run, which is a pretty big run. That's tough to do in volleyball. And it came when they only had 2 sets worth of leeway left. And their huge run in the third set came at 5-18 and ended at 16-20. So it's just too far to come back from for them to put it together. And there are stretches, Valicia Watkins had 23 kills against St. Francis. And she had 17 kills against George Washington last weekend. And it really seems like how Valicia Watkins goes is how the team goes. Of course, that depends on the passing from Hannah Watson and Maddie Torbeck in the back. I'm throwing out Maddie Torbeck because I know she's a defensive specialist. Let's say Hannah Watson is playing as libero. It depends on the setting from Scout McLaren. A lot goes into, Valicia Watkins could play everything perfectly, and sometimes the ball might not even get to her for her to play it perfectly. But when she's had 15 or more kills, UB's almost won. And in games that they've lost, she's hit in the negatives. She's had more errors than kills.
Right. It's funny you mentioned Watkins. There's another name that I wanted to bring up is Cassie Shadow. And where is she? Last season, she played in all 107 sets, but she's only played in all the sets in two matches this year.
Yep.
What's going on? I mean, she didn't play at all against St. Francis. She played in 1 set against Virginia and 1 set against Duquesne. And against George Washington, she had a good against George Washington and Northwestern. She had fairly decent games. I'm racking my brain trying to figure out where she is, why she's not in the lineup. I mean, the only thing I can think of is really injury.
Yeah. I will point out that 1 set against Duquesne, she came in after Duquesne made it to 18-5. And then UB went on their 11-1 run immediately after she came in. Now, does one player swing that whole thing? I don't know. But that's when she came in. That was her one set against Duquesne, was coming in when UB was down 2-0 and losing the third set 18-5. For Cassie's sake, I hope that it isn't an injury because injuries suck and I don't want anyone to be injured. For everyone else's sake, I hope it's an injury because I do not have another explanation. I think that volleyball is the team that we're least connected with. We know the least about. They don't have much of a presence on social media. We don't see very much. They don't get post-game video chats with the coach like soccer does. They might when they're home, but they're never home. We don't get to see them play on video very much because they're never home. So it's tough for us to get a read on what's going on with volleyball. I feel like the obvious answer with a pattern like this is that the player's not getting along with the coach or not fitting the system or something. And if that's the case, that's a huge red flag for me. Because we have no upperclassmen, and Cassie Shadow's an all-MAC performer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to go too far down that road because I made a couple of assumptions just to get to the point of saying that sentence, and I don't want to – I'm saying something that's true that I don't know what it is. But Cassie Shadow needs to play more. I mean, she just needs to play more. I don't understand why. And it's honestly very frustrating as someone who's a fan of this team to know that a player of that caliber is sitting on the bench. And UB's not going to tell us if she's injured, and they can't, and that's okay, and I'm all right with that. And if she's injured, I understand, but if it's anything else, I do not understand. If it were an academic issue or a behavioral issue, she would be suspended for matches and not coming in and out, getting a handful of points here and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's honestly
it's very peculiar.
I will
move.
say.
Oh, no, go
Oh, go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go, because I need
Okay,
to pull up the stats anyway.
I yeah, I'm looking at the schedule right now, and the team is they're sitting at 0-6. Last year, the team started 0-9 before finally beating Navy in the 10th match. I mean, it could easily go that long or longer until this team maybe gets a win. I guess their 10th match this year is at Niagara, and that would probably be their best chance to get their first win. And 2 seasons starting 0-9, that's rough.
Yeah.
Obviously, the season it's a little bit different because it's even more underclassmen than there was last year.
Yeah.
And really, it's at their 10th match is at Niagara, and that will be their first home, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
type match. I mean, that's one that I should be able to go to. And then their first home match is the next match after that.
No, not true.
Oh no, it's
And they have another weekend.
oh yeah, it's I'm just looking at like the schedule just says versus instead of
Ah,
at.
yep. Nope. I don't. I'm not going to get too upset about not having a home tournament in September. They did for a few years, and I assume that there are complications in setting that up. I would love one. I think it's necessary with a young team, but it hasn't happened. Um, I can't get too upset right now about this winless stretch to start the season. And I really don't know what the expectations are for this team. I honestly think my expectations are that we actually keep most of the players and they return next year as sophomores. Like, I really think that's my expectation for the season. And that we don't start over again next year. And we'll see what happens. I won't pretend to have researched the next 7 teams on the schedule at all, but I have to think that Niagara is the best chance for a win before
Yeah.
match play.
And it's just kind of a quick aside from me. This is as a pure fan's perspective. it's frustrating that they don't have anything at home that first month of the season. I mean, their season is you know basically past halfway done before they even play in Alumni Arena. And as a fan, as someone who follows UB athletics very, very closely, it just kind of stinks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are people who want to see this team play, and we haven't gotten the chance yet, but for video feeds from Pittsburgh. And it's only the second weekend, but who knows if is it Georgia Southern that's hosting the tournament next week? Yes, it is. Who knows if Georgia Southern's going to do it? Who knows if Bucknell's going to do it the weekend afterwards? And so we'll see what we get there. But I really think that of every team that UB has, we are least able to take any meaningful inferences from anything that we get from volleyball. We get the least amount of information. I honestly think we get more information from rowing, which there's not a lot of information that goes into rowing results, but we get them. And the coach talks on Twitter about people who are doing well and where they're going, and they're practicing today and things like that. And that's just as frustrating to me as losing. Is that I want to be invested in this, and it's very difficult to be invested. We'll see. I mean, it's a freshman-heavy team. Scout McLaren against St. Francis. I want to end on this strong point. Let's end on a highlight. Scout McLaren against St. Francis had 50-plus assists, I think 53, and also 22 digs. And that was a first, that 50-20 split, I think 2007. I'm going to have to find the Brian Wolf tweet about it here. I should have pulled it up while you were talking. But come on, you can load. Oh dear, Robbie, that is a terrible thought. I don't know if he's watching live right now or if he's just saying this in our back offices, but that Niagara win, I don't even think about Niagara in this way anymore. But we're closing in on 500 days without losing to Niagara as an athletics department. It'd be great. And volleyball might put that in danger. Here we go. 2007 was way off. Scout McLaren finished this morning's match with 53 assists and 22 digs, first 50-20 performance for UB since November 12th, 1999.
Oh, wow.
And right before that, the 37 digs by Hannah Watson this morning were the most by UB freshmen since Tori Beckman had 36 versus Western Michigan on October 17th, 2009. We got people who can play. We just need to be competitive for more than three. We have to get into fourth and fifth sets and get more chances. That's the other thing, is when you lose in 3 sets, you get fewer opportunities to play and get in-game experience, and it kind of steamrolls on you. But Watson and McLaren look like exciting players. When Watkins is on, she's had some very good games. I mean, 17 and 23 kills are big numbers. Watkins isn't always on. Cassie Shadow isn't always on the floor. Megan Wernette is hitting very well, but isn't getting a ton of time. Christina Curson is a name that I like. She's been playing well, considering. We'll just keep this in mind for next weekend, because I don't think we have anything more that we can draw right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we have video next weekend from Atlanta, and we'll get a chance to look more. Or Statesboro, Georgia. Maybe it's Statesboro. It's Statesboro. Might be close to Atlanta. I don't know.
Come on, dig deeper, Matt.
Dig deeper, Matt. But that's volleyball. We really do like you, volleyball. We just wish we knew more about you. Oh, well. Women's or men's soccer, John? Which one do you want to go with?
Let's go women's soccer. I would say a better 2-game stretch. Maybe tie in the win better than last week's tie in a win. more better because of how the Navy game ended.
Oh, the Navy game.
Um,
How the Navy game ended.
but we're gonna go
I'm
in
gonna
front of.
interrupt you for a minute. I'm gonna interrupt you for a minute and put a spoiler alert for our viewers. Navy game ended. Mwah. It was just beautiful. It was beautiful. Back to you, John.
Okay, but we're gonna go in chronological order. So we're gonna start with the Brown game. For what it's worth, Brown still leads the nation in goals against average with 0.
Oh,
They they
that's that's really cool. I did not think about
Yeah,
that at all.
they still have yet to give up a goal. They beat Stony Brook 1-0 today, and they beat Rhode Island 3-0 a couple weeks ago. Um, and UB absolutely peppered uh, the Brown defense. They got 9 shots on goal, took 22 shots. I mean, Julia Benatti took 10 herself and put 5 on the goal. Um, and Brown only had one goal on goal. Um, so the UB defense was doing its job. The UB offense, statistically, were doing their jobs. It's just they couldn't find the back of the net. They just
Yeah.
it was
This
a real sitting there through the 2 overtimes. Um, there were a few points where UB was dangerously close to scoring,
mhm.
especially with Benatti. A few times she looked like she had goals, but they either just went a little bit high, a little bit wide, or the goalie, when they had good shots, they just put them right at the goalie's chest and didn't make the Brown goalie
Yeah.
work to make the
I
saves.
I also did not think that the Brown goalie had to work too hard, but for the second straight Thursday, I had my opinion of the match, and then I watched Coach Burke's video and heard Coach Burke's opinion of the match, and we were very much in disagreement. He was really disgruntled with the St. Bonaventure game 2 weeks ago, and
And that was a 3-1
and
win.
that was a 3-1 win. Now, granted, that last goal infuriating, but we talked about that last week. Um, this game was 0-0. Let's remember that it's off the heels of UB outshooting Binghamton something like 26-9 in a tie against Binghamton on Sunday. And this was a game that came to a tie when UB again dominated possession and didn't get a shot past the goalie. And it's not just they didn't get it past the goalie, the only save that I thought the goalie made that was a difficult save was a diving stop on Catrona at about 35 minutes. Catrona shot from our view, the far side of the box in the first half when UB's moving to the south end zone.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that does ring a bell.
I thought that she missed the net entirely, but then UB got a corner, so the goalie got a hand on it. That save was a good one. Otherwise, like you said, they kind of all went into their chest. Catrona had a great chance at about 84 minutes where she sprung free and kind of put it right in the chest. That said, a big part of sports in general is making things look easier than they are, thanks to like decisions you make before everyone starts focusing on you. And I do think I went and rewatched the game, and I do think that Brown's goalie made a lot of very smart decisions in positioning herself. She was at times pretty far off her line and in position to take up a lot of space on the angle. If you're cutting down the angles as a hockey goalie might. I thought she did a great job with that. And so that does make her saves look easier, but it is something that contributes to being a good goalie. So I'll give her credit there. I still don't think she was tested enough given how much UB had the ball. I was frustrated in that game because I felt like the UB offense was most successful when Carissa Catrona was dropping down into the midfield to help build up. And I think that's fine. Cassidy Kidd did it successfully last year too. But then you're making your forward run awful far. Whereas in comparison today, both of Catrona's goals today in the second half were delivered to her feet in the box. Or, well, one to her feet, one to her head. We'll talk about that in a minute. I was unhappy. I felt like the offense only worked when it went through Bonatti and Catrona, and I felt like it didn't get to Bonatti often enough. But apparently she took 10 shots. You know, the coaches were extremely happy about that game. Not just Burke, but Durkaz is going, very complimentary on Twitter. We should mention, talk about burying the lead, Laura Dugu got the shutout to set the UB career record. It was her 22nd career shutout. She had pulled into a tie with Ainsley Weldon last year and got the shutout. So hooray for Laura. She only had to make one save in that game. But as long as you don't let any in, it's a shutout. I've been talking for a while.
Yeah, I think we could just move on, mosey on over to the Navy game.
The Brown game, in retrospect, now that John reminds me that they haven't given up a goal yet, I feel better. But they really should have given up their first goal against us. That said, as long as it makes us better for MAC play, I'm happy.
Yes. So Navy game today was kind of a tale of two halves. First half was not anything spectacular, which we wouldn't know because UB screwed up with the live stream, and the live stream didn't come on until like close to halftime. So, or at least when I was trying to watch, it just said, stream is starting soon, and that was at least 20, 30 minutes into the game. So luckily we missed Navy scoring within the first 10 minutes. I saw it on live stats, and I was really bummed out about it.
Yeah.
And then I think the real turning point was actually...
Can I interrupt you very quickly? And then I'd like...
Go ahead.
Remember where you were, because sometimes I interrupt you and you forget where you were, and then I just talk longer. Remember where you were. I was bummed out to see the goal, but I was also a little proud that the goal came from one of the names that I highlighted in my preview. Like, I'm really excited when that happens. It happened last year at St. Bonaventure. I told folks to watch out for Abby Maiello, and then she scored twice, or scored once. Like, I said, look out for McAdam, and then she scored. I don't like when the other teams score, but I like when I highlight someone and then I look like I know what I'm talking about. Back to you. I really hope you didn't forget where you were.
I didn't forget where I was, and when we get to men's soccer, then we'll get to talk about how I look like I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
At the end of the first half, Myred, is that how you say her name? Mairead Martin scored her first career goal, and Ashley Evans got her, I believe it was her first career point on the assist.
Yes.
I think that was kind of the turning point. They built that momentum going into halftime, came out of the half, and boy, oh boy, was the last 25-ish minutes,
Woo!
30 minutes. Oh, that was
I told you.
the best sequence of soccer this team has played all season. And
Absolutely.
this was against a Navy team that played TCU to a... Oh, crap.
You can do it.
I'm drawing a blank.
I could tell you, but you could do it.
No. All right, so let me
I
skip.
could tell you.
No, let me skip TCU. It was UNC
Okay.
Wilmington that they played to a tie.
Yep.
And Wilmington was getting more votes than TCU. TCU was a 1-goal loss.
Yes. In double overtime.
And they played current number 2 Stanford to a 1-goal loss.
Yes.
So this is a Navy team that is much more talented than their record indicates. And Chris Catrona had the brace in the second half, and it, like, all around soccer, from backline all the way up front, just beautiful. I can't find another word to describe how it was watching that sequence to end the game. If that team shows up for 90 minutes, this team is going to win a lot of games.
Yeah. Yes. That second half reminded me of the game in 2014 when they won the championship, the game against Green, where Bowling Green did not get the ball across midfield for 20 straight minutes in the first half. That's what this reminded me of. Navy did not get a shot at all. Not just a shot on goal, not even like one long desperation shot from 40 yards out. They didn't take a shot for the last 35 minutes of the game. UB was in complete and total control. I mean, they were pouncing on loose balls. They were fighting Navy for balls that Navy didn't have total control for. They were taking good steps when Navy had passes. Their play on the wings in the second half was very strong. Once I get to my goal-by-goal look back, it'll probably publish on Tuesday. I'm trying to do them 2 days. I'm going to talk not just about in Catrona's second goal and the third goal, not just about the immediate play that happened, but the play that A.J. Van Kuyk did to earn the throw-in that became that goal. You have to go back almost 90 seconds in order to see everything that built up that led to that third goal, that insurance goal for UB. And that's the type of buildup they were having all game. It wasn't just Catrona potted her 2 chances. It wasn't just that Van Kuyk and Gerrits were on it and sent in quality crosses. It wasn't just that Moyer Petrie was controlling the top of the box or that the communication was really good through the midfield. They were able to do everything they wanted to do, and they looked composed. They looked like they had time on the ball, and they did it against a team that I really think I think that Navy team is better than Hofstra. Like, after watching what I watched today, and I mean, granted, I watched UB pick them apart, but I really think that Navy is better than Hofstra. And it's just a great game. UB's got 4 straight results now, dating back to that St. Bonaventure win. They take on Canisius this weekend, and it's their only game this weekend, so they can go all out and win. I wouldn't argue with 6. This is not a prediction. This is just, I would like for Canisius to lose by more goals than I have fingers on my right hand, which is 5. I haven't had any accidents. It was a great game. It's got me very high on the team right now. I don't know really what else to say. I hope that I can watch the second half again a little bit more in depth, because I didn't watch it with any mindset of let me look for individual players. I was just watching. I was really glad. I should point out, John, that the first goal came off a set piece. You might have mentioned that, but Evans to Martin was a set piece on a corner, which is great. And both of Catrona's goals were on crosses as well, which I like. I like that Catrona. Of course, Catrona scoring goals is great. A little small part of me wants the goals to get spread around, because teams like Ball State and Western Michigan and maybe Miami are going to be able to shut her down. They might not shut her down just to do nothing, but UB's going to have other people who are dangerous. But I was glad to see that both those goals from Catrona didn't come from Catrona getting the ball on her feet, making a play, shucking a defender, and beating the goalie. They came from the ball getting to Catrona and her touching it into the net. Her first goal was plucking it out of the air with her foot. The second goal was heading it in. It was just a different type of goal than she scored for her first 3 goals of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think back to, I think it was the Bonaventure game, and she had a goal. One of her goals in the Bonaventure game was a crazy sequence where she took the ball. She basically broke 3 Bonaventure players' ankles and then fired the ball into the net. It was nice to see that she doesn't have to do everything on her own, and that the offense is starting to build into her teammates feeding her these opportunities. I mean, her first goal, the ball landed at her feet, and she just took the shot. She didn't have to do anything extra beyond kicking the ball.
Mm-hmm.
What would be nice, I would like to see, like you mentioned, someone else start to step up and start scoring more goals. We talked about Selena Carrero in the off season, and I'd like to see her get more involved in the scoring offense.
Hmm.
Um, but that's what I'd like to have. There are a lot of things I would like to have.
I mean,
Uh,
I'd love it if everybody would just start scoring 2 goals a game. Like, I don't mean to say this to make fun of your point. I just think it would be great if, like, all of a sudden we started scoring 30 goals a game and everybody was getting to a game. Um, I will look back at the second half, and I'll look back at the Brown game and take more of a look at Carrero. I thought Carrero played well against Brown. I remember thinking that at the time. Um, you know, I remember the Brown game being frustrated that I felt like the ball did not get to Julia Bonatti enough, and it worked through the other side of the field too much. Um, and if what Robbie is telling us is correct, and they were working through the right side of the field in the first half of this game today, that means they were working through Garrett's again instead of Bonatti. And I mean, I get it. You take what's given to you and stuff, but Bonatti's good enough that it might be worth the risk of forcing the issue a little bit to let her start to build something on that side. I would just like to see her work on the ball more.
mhm.
And we'll see. Today they won 3-1. They've gotten 4 straight results. They haven't lost to a team that didn't go to the NCAA tournament net last year. Which, if that holds, they're going to be in pretty good shape. There's only one more team on their schedule who did that. So I'm feeling pretty good. And like I think I said in the preseason, John, I really feel like there's going to be a lot of 1-0 and 1-1 games this year for this team, and I'm okay with that. Like, you can win a championship on 1-0 games.
Yeah, if the other team isn't scoring, you're probably going to win.
Yeah.
Um, I think we can move on wherever.
I think we need to. We've sneakily burned up our time this week.
To a team that, if we're feeling good about women's soccer, we're feeling very good about men's soccer.
How could you not?
Before we get into the results of the last few matches, why don't we go through some of the records and program firsts that we've reached already?
Sure. You start. You give me one, then I'll give you one.
Okay. Joe Kuda has earned the first 4-game shutout streak to start a season in program history.
All right, I'll stick with Joe Kuda. Joe Kuda's current 4-game shutout streak is the longest in UB, longest for a bowl since 2008 when Bobby Shuttleworth was on the team.
Russell Cicerone, this is going back to the PDL championships and the playoffs. He has scored a goal or had an assist in the last 7 games that he's played in.
That's pretty good. I will stick with the shutouts for one more, then I'll move to offense. In addition to the 4 shutouts being the first time ever for the team, obviously to get to 4, you need to get to 3. And the last time that UB had 3 shutouts to start their season was 1981.
Back in the SUNYAC days.
Back in the SUNYAC days.
Ugh.
I'm glad we're not there anymore.
UB currently has the nation leaders in 2 categories. Well, actually 3. Goals. Russell Cicerone with 7. I believe Ricard Lindquist is still in the national lead with assists. If not, he's definitely in the top 5.
So after the Friday game, given that no one else had played yet that weekend, Lindquist and Cicerone were tied for the national lead in assists with 4.
Oh, how about that?
Because Cicerone had 2 against Stony Brook.
That's right. And the final one is Joe Kuda is tied for the national leading goals against average with 0.
0. You know who no longer has a 0 goals against average? I have no more facts. I think that's the end of our fun little gimmick. No longer as a national league goals against average is Akron's goalkeeper, because he gave up a goal to San Diego State and Akron lost. I honestly hesitate to trash talk too much against Akron because they're likely still very much better than us. And also they started their season with 3 top 10 games which is awesome. Like, I hope that our program gets to a point where we can do that without just murdering ourselves.
Yeah, never mind the talent disparity between UCLA and Damon College. But,
never,
but
never mind the
but
talent disparity.
UB still had UB still won a game 9-0. Akron hasn't.
Yeah, never mind the talent disparity between Incarnate Word and San Diego State, but UB has not given up a goal, and Akron has. Akron's very good, and we have to admit that all the kicks we get out of this probably not going to be fulfilled, but still fun. Their goalie's given up a goal. Our goalie has not. Yeah. Stony Brook. 3-1 game. You'd be pretty much in control
3-1.
throughout.
No, 3-0.
Nothing.
None.
I'm a dummy. I'm sorry. I could not play for UB men's soccer because I am not perfect. You know what I really liked about that game, John, was that it was up and down throughout. You know, Stony Brook didn't necessarily get great chances, but they moved the ball into the final third and took shots and left space for UB to advance and move into their final third and take shots. It was a fun game to watch.
Yeah,
maybe you didn't get to watch it because it was at 10 a.m. on a Friday.
Yeah,
but I got to watch it.
Unfortunately, it wasn't my Friday off, so I had to watch the replay. But at least one UB football team beat a SUNY school on Friday. But
oh my goodness! Did you just really do that yourself?
Yes.
That's,
I could hear the crickets chirping, so I had to find someone to get. It's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had mentioned this when we were talking women's soccer. A person in the Stony Brook game that, again, is making me look like a genius.
Mm-hmm.
An absolute genius, man. I love feeling like a genius. Is Ricard Lindquist.
Yeah, you deserve.
Oh.
I'm going to let you have this gloating all year. You've hit so. I mean, you've hit the mother lode with your preseason hype of Ricard Lindquist.
Yeah, he scored his second goal of the season, and it was a very nice sequence involving Ryan Pereira, who was finally back, and Russell Cicerone. It was Pereira to Cicerone, Cicerone to Lindquist, and Lindquist buried it.
I'm going to find this goal, and I'm going to find it on so that, because when I try to show GIFs on the screen share, it doesn't work out so well because the frame rates are different, and the GIFs are 15 frames per second, and then the video might also be 15 frames per second. They kind of miss each other, and it's just, oh, that's terrible. 1 second. The recap video only shows, like, it doesn't show the pass at all. So that stinks. So I'm going to have to find the goal, which is okay. It was just the thing with this goal. I do these breakdowns, and I've done it. I've already posted the breakdown, the goal-by-goal breakdown for Stony Brook. And I do these breakdowns, and sometimes I'm left, John, just to say, I can't break this down. There's no big strategic thing that's happening there because, oh, is that going to do what I want it to do? It might not have. Also, I might have frozen my entire life here. Oh, here we go. Great. Sometimes when there's just a very strong technical play, it doesn't translate well to me trying to break it down. And this is an example of that where I'm going to have to find the goal because it happened so quickly after the half. But it's just, there's literally nothing to it. It just, Pereira made an obvious pass. Oh, it was in the first half, that's why.
Yeah, it was at the 39th minute, 39:57.
I thought it was right. I thought it was 2 minutes after the half. Okay, give me a second.
That was Cicerone's PK. Was 10, like less than 10 after the half.
Okay. Oh, there it is. Okay, 1 second. 20 seconds should do it. Okay, here we go. Let's see. I hope that when we do this, the sound syncs up with the video enough that I don't sound like crazy in this. But basically, right here, Pereira's just going to be in the right spot. He's going to make the obvious pass with a great lane to Cicerone. Cicerone sees Lindquist running already and just delivers it into a space that Lindquist can run into. Lindquist beats his man and finds the goalie too close to the post and puts it on the other side. I'm going to rewind 20 seconds so we can show it again. Watch the way that Cicerone he already knows what he's doing before the ball even starts to move towards him. He's already ready. I wish we could see Lindquist because Lindquist started running as soon as Pereira passed the ball. And then it's just great body control. Like that was Marcus Hansen-esque right there. That this work by Lindquist to corral the ball with a guy on him is exactly what Marcus Hansen used to do. Steven Stryker really doesn't factor into the play, but his run was very smart. He made himself available early if Lindquist wanted to pass it on early. And then once it became clear that Lindquist wasn't going to pass it too quickly, he dropped back just in case a late pass came. I do want to find. I said this on Twitter, and I didn't really. I don't think anyone noticed it, but it reminded me so much of a goal from 2014 where Cicerone also picked up the primary assist. And I might have to dig back and find it. You talk for a bit, and I'm gonna find this goal.
Okay. So back to me looking like a genius, because I needed a nice little ego stroke tonight. Matt, you really highlighted why I didn't really know that Lindquist would be that type of player going into the season, but he has.
Oh, you know what? That goal is going to be on the. That goal is going to be on the Ustream channel, so we're not going to have it. Bummer. Take my word for it that it was very similar to a goal from 2014. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll take Matt's word for it. But yeah, Lindquist, he's second on the team in points behind Cicerone right now.
And if I'm not mistaken, all but one of his points, all but his free kick goal, have come either Cicerone's been the assist or Lindquist has assisted Cicerone.
I believe you are correct.
And he was the one who earned the penalty kick that became Cicerone's game-winning goal today against Incarnate Word.
There you go.
Just saying. He's pretty good. He's pretty good at soccer.
Yeah, and the offense has been phenomenal.
And
heading into this weekend,
back to Donny. Donny has not only has Donny not scored a goal, but Donny's been not a part of the offense yet.
Yeah,
maybe we don't want to talk about that, but it's noticeable to me.
Riddle even mentioned that to me when I talked to him, and this was after the Damon game that we still have yet to see a goal from Scott Donny. And that was a few games ago. That was 3 games ago. Still haven't seen a goal from Scott Donny. He has an assist, but has largely not been a part of the offense. And once he does make his presence felt on the offensive end, then I really think the scoring is going to really blow up. Not to 9 goals a game, but I think we could consistently expect 2 or 3 goal games out of this team.
I think that we should. I'm glad they can win low-scoring games. Obviously, if I talk about the women's team being happy with 1-0 wins, I am certainly. Joe Kuda's given us the option to only take 1 goal and score with it. But yeah, I have not yet watched this Incarnate Word game. Incarnate Word is a much better team than you'd think, given that they've given up 6 goals.
Mm-hmm.
They played Canisius pretty even and lost by 1, and I think that's a pretty sign. I think Canisius outplayed us. I think you don't disagree with me there. I do not think Canisius deserved to lose that game. I think we did enough to win. I think a draw would have been fair because defense and goaltending is part of the game. And if we wanted to hunker down and do what we could, we would earn a draw. But I think that only a 1-0 loss to Canisius was significant. And so I wasn't too upset when I checked in at half and saw that it was 0-0 against Incarnate Word. And I admit that I had a little bit of worry until I checked in after the game and saw that we won 1-0. So I haven't watched it yet, so I can't talk too much about it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I just completely kind of blanked out.
Okay, well, we won.
Um,
Cicerone and Lindquist continue to be great. Fox Slotmaker, Nick Forrester,
yeah,
Enstrom, all great. Fisher and Place on the fullback spots. That
yeah,
back four is incredible.
that's what I was going to. I was going to interrupt you, then I lost my train of thought. That we have been praising Joe Kuda a lot for having 4 clean sheets in a row, not giving up a goal, but a big part of that is the back four,
Mm-hmm.
and those guys have just been amazing. Um, Kuda only had to see 2 shots on goal today, and they're making his job easy.
Yep. Yep, they are. And you know what? And that's all right with me. I think we've seen both goalies in the last week, Laura Dougal and Joe Kuda, remember to praise their back line, when they get talking about their shutouts.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad for that. Sorry, 1 second. I should not be interrupting this, but I've got to tell someone that she owes me $20, and $20 to me is more valuable than 30 seconds of interruption on our show. If someone asks you how much do they owe you, and they owe you $20, you got to tell them $20. So now hopefully I'll get my money. I could quote a song, but it would be vulgar, and I shouldn't. I don't actually know how the song goes either. Yeah, I mean, it's just a good, solid team. Like, I honestly, Canisius, and that's it, because this is only the second weekend, so we've seen video of every game. Canisius is the only team that had a chance, and not by a chance of beating us, but a chance at scoring. Like, Canisius had many of them, but the other 3 teams we played have not had scoring chances.
Mm-hmm.
And that's awesome. I don't know who this team loses till MAC play, John. I really don't. I've said that a few times, and I'm still saying it. I don't know how good VMI and Liberty are, so I could maybe be eating my words in as few as 7 days. Maybe this is research that we should have done for tonight's show, but instead I'm trying to recoup a $20 debt.
I do know South Florida had received votes and was in the top 25 at one point. Actually, they're 8.
That's a good point.
Oh, well, God damn it, but pardon my French. For those of you who know me personally, you'll know that I absolutely do swear like a sailor, and I believe that any word that's good enough for a sailor is good enough for me.
Oh, I like that, John.
Um,
I did forget that we were playing South Florida. They are a strong program.
I think, well, last year they finished 18th in the RP. Oh, here we go. I think this is the preseason rankings. And Florida was received quite a few votes. I believe this is the preseason NSCAA coaches poll.
Yep.
So they're gonna. I think they'll be the toughest.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this: Bonaventure is certainly not the toughest test. Like, Russell Cicerone may have another hat trick against Bonaventure based on what he's done to them the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Niagara's not a tough test. Binghamton's not a tough test. I told you at the beginning of the season, John, that I thought this team could hit MAC play with 1 loss. And at this point, I mean, Duquesne we had trouble with Duquesne 2 or 3 seasons ago, but that was a long time ago.
Hmm.
Um, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We've kind of got to wrap up. I think we're well over an hour. I know we didn't start until 9:40 at least, but I don't know how much longer past 9:40 we went.
It was
Or
like
till we started.
9:43.
Okay, well then we're still over an hour. Um, this week in bowl, we haven't used that phrase this year, but it's what we call the week ahead in
And
UB athletics.
thankfully, they have a composite schedule calendar now, which is one of the few features that I do enjoy about the new UB website.
They had one last year too. It just
And
never had all the sports in it and was very difficult to use.
um,
So I guess that's that. Oh my goodness, we really have all of Monday through Thursday with no games. That sucks. That's something I forgot. I was so excited to get fall sports back, John. And then last week I was sitting at my desk at work on Tuesday, and I'm like, there are still 2 full work days before UB Sports again. That's very
yeah,
difficult for me. Very
but
difficult for me. Anyway,
but the great thing for me is I have a 3-day work week and everything on Friday. I'll just be able to sit back, relax, and watch UB Sports, which I'll be at the women's soccer game
yeah,
at UB
you
Stadium, which
can.
you should, if you're watching and you're in the Buffalo area, you should be there too. If not, then shame on you.
Yeah, it's against
Um,
Canisius, who we hate. Which, if you watch the show, you know that I hate
you
everyone.
hate everyone.
Um, not in the way that like Boston fans hate everyone and think they're like sent by the devil to ruin their lives, but I just want every other sports team to lose everything without injuring themselves because injuries affect your real world life and that's no good. Um, but I just want losses for all of our opponents. Friday's a big day.
Yeah.
I hopefully
It's
by
going to be
Friday we'll research VMI a little bit more for the men's soccer side. UB
it's
should
going
beat
to
Canisius
be
in the women's side.
it's going to be a busy day for us.
Yeah. Um, on the flip side, nothing on Saturday, just volleyball versus Wake Forest. Two of volleyball's 3 matches this weekend come on Friday. Georgia Southern at noon and South Carolina at 5. Wake Forest at 1 p.m. on Saturday. And then Sunday we have just men's soccer versus Liberty. All right, they again have failed to update this because I remember looking at this last weekend. I'm sorry, John, to dump on your composite calendar loving parade. But men's tennis this coming weekend is at the Silverado Invitational in Napa Valley, California. Women's tennis is at the Cornell Invitational. I
Okay,
don't know what
so
other teams are there. I don't care too much. We'll tell you about it next Sunday. I'm particularly excited to see all the new names on the men's tennis side. And I'm particularly excited on the women's side to see them win everything. I don't think they're actually going to win everything, but I think they're the best team we've seen since John and I have been writing for the blog. And women's tennis, if you know, has had a couple of strong seasons strung together right now.
hmm let's see. For men's, I know you're in the DC area. Liberty is in Lynchburg, if I'm
Yeah,
not mistaken. That's
I thought about renting a car and going down. I at first thought about going down for the whole weekend and getting a hotel room, like I did for women's soccer, and then I thought about doing it only for Sunday. Um,
oh my,
and
and yeah, VMI
I'll
is in like the middle of nowhere, just outside of Lynchburg.
It's
How
like
about that?
Penn State was like 170 miles from DC. These schools are like 250, and I would be paying through the nose um, to get there with a car. Thank God I'm not under 25 anymore, and I can get away with a few fees. But like, let me double check on this. I want directions from Washington, D.C. It's just not feasible. I really wanted to go. Up until 2 weeks ago, I really thought I was going 190 miles, so not that bad, but I just can't afford it right now. I spent more money on that women's soccer trip than I thought. I have to buy plane tickets for a few different things in the fall, so I'm not going to make it. It's a bummer. But if they want to swing through DC on the way down or the way up, I'll come say hello. That would be cool. Sometimes coaches are in DC and they tweet about it, and I just think about going and wandering the streets looking for, like, as if our coaches are recruiting, in the Smithsonian, like just running into women's basketball players in the Smithsonian. No, they're going to gyms, like at schools in places that I don't know where. But like there was a time last year when the entire women's coaching staff was in DC and tweeting about it, and I was like, I'm going to go into DC and find Felicia Legette-Jack and Kristen Sharkey. And I don't know what. But there are 6.5 million people in DC, and in the metro area at least. And finding three of them would be difficult.
And I just sent Matt on the tangent about finding FLJ and hashtag Right Shark in Washington, D.C. Matt, I think it's about time we wrapped up for the evening.
I think it's time wrapped up. It feels like a long time since we were expressing our displeasure about volleyball, because soccer has just got us that pumped. Friday night, if you're in Buffalo, if you have any interest in women's soccer at all, come and watch that game.
Yeah, and come find me. I'll be the only idiot sitting there with a laptop.
Yeah, find Robbie. Robbie will be there in True Blue. Go and do it. When men's soccer is back home, I'm on men's tennis now because I had to go and look that up like a doofus. I promise, John, that we're wrapping up. I promise. Men's soccer is next home. I think they're at Niagara on September 15th. Bonaventure on September 21st. That's a ways away. Bummer. Well, be there because it's awesome, and they're going to beat Bonaventure really bad, and it's going to be another really fun game to watch.
The issue with that game, I'll be in Texas that week for work.
What's not in Texas? St. Bonaventure getting their guts kicked out by UB men's soccer. But the people who pay your bills are sending you there.
So I kind of have to go.
All right. I feel like this was a good show, John. I started with ice cream, and it's been done for like an hour now. We talked about a lot of things. Thank you for watching, Robbie. You are one live viewer. You're awesome. At times we had 3. I don't know who those people were. Over the course of next week, other people will watch, and we're grateful to you as well. This time next week, John, we'll have 5 sports up, 6 sports up and running. We'll have 5 sports to talk about next show. We're going to have to learn how to be briefer. Not my favorite thing, but we're going to have to learn. Join us next week, Sunday, 9:30, 10 o'clock-ish. We'll be talking volleyball. We won't be talking cross-country because they won't race. Men's and women's tennis, men's and women's soccer. It's going to be fun. Hopefully, men's soccer still won't have given up a goal yet, and we will be talking more program records. That would be awesome. For John McWhinney, I'm Matt Gritzmacher. We are from UBBullRun.com. This is Blue Bowl TV and the Olympic Rundown. Have a great week.